The Pathfinder tumbled through space, its hull groaning from the stress. Alarms screamed from every console. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was already at the engineering station, her fingers flying over the controls as she tried to stabilize their spin. "Main engine is offline," she reported, her voice tight but controlled. "Starboard thruster damaged. Hull breach in Section 7. Captain Marcus Chen pulled himself into the pilot's seat, fighting against the artificial gravity that kept failing and restarting. "Sarah, get to Section 7. Seal that breach." Dr. Sarah Okonkwo was already moving, grabbing a repair kit from the emergency locker. She stumbled as the gravity cut out again, then pushed off the wall to float toward the affected section. Chen worked the controls, firing the port thrusters to slow their spin. Slowly, painfully, the ship began to respond. The tumbling decreased. The stars outside the viewport stopped wheeling quite so fast. "Gravity stabilizing," Yuki said. "Hull breach sealing." Sarah must have reached it. Sarah's voice came through the intercom. "Breach sealed with emergency patch. It'll hold, but we need to limit pressure in this section." "Understood. Get back to the bridge." Chen finally brought the ship under control. They hung in space, battered but intact. Through the viewport he could see the debris field where the station had been. Twisted metal, frozen gases, fragments of alien technology spinning slowly in the void. "Yuki, damage report." She was already running diagnostics. "Main engine needs repairs before we can engage FTL. The explosion damaged our power coupling. I can fix it, but it'll take time. Communications array is damaged too. We can't send long-range messages until we reach Neptune Station." "How long until the engine is fixed?" 6 hours. Maybe 8. Sarah returned to the bridge, her face pale and streaked with sweat. She collapsed into her chair. For a long moment, none of them spoke. They just sat there processing what had happened. "Martinez and Park," Sarah finally said. "They're really gone." Chen nodded, unable to speak. He kept seeing Park's face, kept hearing Martinez's screams. 2 people under his command. 2 people he'd failed to protect. "It's not your fault," Yuki said quietly. "You know that, right? They made their own choices. Park bought us time." Martinez tried to help. "They were heroes." "They were my crew," Chen said. His voice was hollow. "My responsibility. And because of them, because of what we did, Earth is safe," Sarah said. "Those creatures are dead. The research data is destroyed. That has to mean something." Chen looked at the debris field again. "Is it destroyed? All of it?" Yuki followed his gaze. "The station's reactor overload would have vaporized everything within a kilometer. Nothing could survive that. The chimeras, the eggs, the computers, all of it gone." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." But Chen couldn't shake a feeling of unease. Those creatures had survived for 200 years in impossible conditions. They had adapted to everything. "Could they really be dead?" "We should go," Sarah said. "Before anything else happens." "Agreed." "Yuki, start repairs." "Sarah, help her." "I'll plot a course back to Neptune Station." They worked for hours in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Yuki and Sarah pulled apart the damaged power coupling and slowly rebuilt it. Chen ran calculations, figuring out the most efficient route home. 8 hours later, the main engine rumbled back to life. Chen engaged the drive and the Pathfinder leaped forward, leaving the debris field behind. The journey to Neptune Station would take 3 weeks at their damaged ship's maximum speed. 3 weeks alone with their thoughts. 3 weeks to remember the screams. The first few days were the hardest. They went through the motions of running the ship, but their hearts weren't in it. They ate meals in silence. They worked their shifts mechanically. At night, Chen heard Sarah crying in her quarters. He heard Yuki talking to herself, running through calculations over and over as if trying to drown out the memories. On the 4th day, Chen called them to the bridge. "We need to talk about what we're going to tell Earth Command." "The truth," Sarah said. "Everything that happened, and they'll believe us? That we found an alien station full of genetic experiments that killed 2 of our crew? We have data," Yuki said. "I copied everything from the station's computers before we left. Research files, security footage, the works. It's all in our ship's memory." "Good. They'll need to see the evidence. They'll need to understand the threat." "What threat?" Sarah asked. "The chimeras are dead. But the architects aren't," Chen said. "That long-range transmission you found, Yuki. The one sending data back to Architect Space. Did we stop it?" Yuki's face went white. I don't know. The station's destruction should have cut the signal. But if it was being relayed through other systems..." She moved to her console and began searching through the data she'd copied. Minutes passed. Then she looked up and Chen knew the answer before she spoke. The transmission was completed, Yuki said quietly. Before we destroyed the station, it sent everything. The Chimera research data, the evolution records, our arrival, all of it. Transmitted to a destination about 50 light-years from here. The architects know, Sarah said. They know their experiment survived. They know someone found it. And they know we destroyed it. Chen stood and walked to the viewport. The stars looked different now. Less beautiful, more threatening. Somewhere out there, an alien race was receiving a message. What would they do with that information? We need to prepare, he said. When we get back, we need to convince Earth to prepare. The architects might come looking for their lost station. They might want revenge. Or they might want to collect what's left. Or, Yuki said slowly, they might want to try the experiment again. If the chimeras survived for 200 years and evolved into even more efficient predators, that data is valuable. Dangerous but valuable. The thought hung in the air like poison. They reached Neptune Station on schedule, their ship limping into dock with minimal power. The moment they docked, they were met by security teams and medical personnel. News of their damaged ship and lost crew members had been detected by long-range sensors. Chen spent 2 days in debriefing sessions, telling the story over and over. Sarah and Yuki did the same. They showed the data, the footage, the evidence they'd collected. At first, the officials were skeptical, then concerned, then terrified. You're saying there's an alien race out there that creates biological weapons? Admiral Catherine Morrison asked. She was head of the United Nations Space Command, a stern woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Not weapons, Sarah corrected. They saw them as colonization tools, organisms that could survive anywhere, adapt to any environment. But yes, in the wrong hands, they could be weapons, the most dangerous kind. And this alien race, these architects, they know you destroyed their station? Yes, ma'am, Chen confirmed. When will they arrive? We don't know. The signal reached them weeks ago. If they responded immediately and have faster-than-light travel, they could already be on their way. Morrison stood and walked to the window of her office, looking out at Earth hanging in the distance. This changes everything, she said. First contact won't be peaceful scientists exchanging greetings. It'll be an angry civilization demanding answers for the destruction of their property. With respect, Admiral, Chen said, if they come here demanding anything, we have bigger problems. Those chimeras would have spread if we hadn't stopped them. Earth's entire ecosystem could have been compromised. We did what we had to do. I agree, Captain, and I'll make sure the Council understands that. But we need to be ready. If the architects come, we need defenses, weapons, a plan. Over the following weeks, Earth mobilized. Military shipyards went into overdrive, building defense platforms around Earth and Mars. Scientists studied the chimera data, looking for weaknesses, trying to understand the genetics. Think tanks developed first contact protocols for a scenario where the aliens weren't friendly. Chen, Sarah, and Yuki became reluctant celebrities. They gave speeches, briefed military officers, consulted with scientists. Everyone wanted to hear their story. Everyone wanted to know more about the aliens, but Chen couldn't enjoy any of it. Every night he dreamed of the station, of Park's last stand, of Martinez's screams, of intelligent eyes watching him through crystal walls. Lieutenant Park and Ensign Martinez were given full military honors. Their families received medals. Their names were added to the monument for those who died exploring space. It didn't feel like enough. Sarah threw herself into her work helping scientists understand the chimera biology. She published papers, gave lectures, tried to prepare humanity for what might come. But Chen saw how she jumped at shadows, how she couldn't sleep without medication. Yuki was the worst. She became obsessed with the long-range transmission, running calculations over and over. How fast were the architects traveling? When would they arrive? What would they do? She barely ate, barely slept, just worked until she collapsed. 6 months after their return, Chen was called to Neptune Station's observation deck. A junior officer had detected something strange. Sir, we're picking up multiple contacts, the officer said, pointing at her screen. Large objects decelerating from FTL, coming from the direction of the destroyed station. Chen felt his blood run cold. How many? At least 12, sir. Possibly more. They're still too far for detailed scans. Sound the alert. Get me Admiral Morrison. Behind them, somewhere in the darkness of the station, a creature that had learned to mimic human voice, Captain Chen and Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, burst into the docking bay to find Dr. Yuki Tanaka huddled behind a control console. Her eyes were red from crying, her hands shaking. When she saw them, relief flooded her face. "Thank God," she whispered. "I thought I was alone." Chen looked around the bay. The Pathfinder sat in its docking clamp, so close but impossibly far. Between them and the ship lay 50 meters of open space. No cover, no protection. If the Chimera came now, they would be exposed. "Where's Park?" Yuki asked. "And Martinez?" Chen's silence was answer enough. Sarah was checking the docking controls, trying to see if they could remotely open the ship's airlock. "We lost them," Chen said quietly. "Martinez came looking for us. That thing got her. Park went silent a few minutes ago." Yuki sobbed once, then forced herself to breathe steadily. "What do we do?" "We get to the ship. We seal ourselves in, and we figure out how to kill that thing or destroy the station." "Captain," Sarah interrupted. She was staring at one of the monitors. "You need to see this." The screen showed a security feed from deep in the station. The habitat dome. Through the crystal walls, they could see the 2 remaining chimeras. They were moving around what looked like a nest. Dozens of eggs, each the size of a human head, arranged in careful patterns. "They're breeding," Sarah said. "The architects thought they were sterile, but they adapted. Those eggs, if they hatch, if the creatures spread—" "Earth," Chen finished. "They'd spread to Earth, an invasive species more dangerous than anything in nature." Yuki was typing frantically at the console. "There's a self-destruct protocol. The architects built it in as a failsafe, but it requires manual activation from 3 separate terminals across the station. They wanted to make sure no single accident could trigger it." "Where are the terminals?" Yuki pulled up a map. "One here in the docking bay, one in the command center we passed earlier, and one—" She stopped, her face going pale. "One inside the habitat dome." "Of course," Chen said bitterly. "They wouldn't make it easy." "There's more," Yuki continued. "The station has been sending a long-range signal. Not the distress beacon. Something else. A data transmission back to Architect Space. It's been broadcasting everything that happens here. Every reading, every sensor log. Including the Chimera research data," Sarah said. "If the architects receive that data, if they know the Chimeras survived and evolved, they might try to recover them, or replicate the experiment." Chen made his decision. "We activate the self-destruct. All 3 terminals. We destroy the station, the chimeras, the eggs, and all the research data." "We'll need to split up," Sarah said. 3 terminals, 3 of us." "No," Chen shook his head. "I'll activate the habitat terminal. You 2 go to the command center. If I don't make it back, you activate that terminal and get to the ship. Understood?" "Captain, you can't—" Yuki started. "That's an order. The mission is the data destruction and getting at least some of us home to warn Earth. If I die making that happen, it's worth it." Before they could argue, a sound echoed through the docking bay. That terrible clicking. The Chimera was close. "Go," Chen whispered. "Now. I'll activate this terminal and meet you at the command center." Sarah and Yuki ran for the exit that led to the command center. Chen moved to the terminal in the docking bay. His hands shook as he accessed the self-destruct system. The interface was complex, designed to prevent accidents. He carefully followed the sequences Yuki had shown him. The system accepted his commands. 1 of 3 terminals activated. The screen displayed a countdown timer, but it wouldn't start until all 3 were activated. Chen grabbed weapons from an emergency locker. A pulse rifle, spare power cells, a plasma cutter they used for repairs. Not much against a creature that had been evolving for 200 years, but it was something. He left the docking bay and headed for the habitat dome. The corridor seemed darker now, more threatening. Every shadow could hide death. He moved carefully, trying to remember the path. His radio crackled. "Captain, we're at the command center." It was Sarah's voice. "Activating the 2nd terminal now." "Good, I'm heading to the habitat. Be careful. If those 2 chimeras in the dome are still there, I know." He moved through the research wing, past the laboratories where this nightmare had begun. The sealed doors with their warnings seemed prophetic now. The architects had known the danger. They had tried to warn anyone who came, and Chen had ignored them. He reached the viewing chamber outside the habitat dome. Through the crystal wall he could see the garden ecosystem. It looked peaceful. Birds flew between trees. Water sparkled in the stream. A paradise built to house monsters. The 2 chimeras were visible near their nest. They were bigger than the one that had been hunting through the station. These were the survivors, the winners of a 200-year death match. They moved with terrible grace, checking their eggs, occasionally looking around as if sensing something wrong. Chen studied the dome's entrance. There was an airlock designed to let researchers enter the habitat. The terminal he needed was just inside that airlock. If he was fast, if he was lucky, he could activate it and get out before the chimeras reacted. He moved to the airlock controls. The door opened with a hiss. The moment he stepped inside, alarms began blaring. The chimera's head snapped toward him. They had been waiting, watching. Chen ran for the terminal, his boots slipping on the grass. The terminal was 30 meters away. 20. 10. Behind him, he heard the chimeras coming. Fast. So fast. He reached the terminal and his hands flew over the controls. The system was asking for confirmation codes. He entered them, praying he remembered correctly. The screen flashed green. Third terminal activated. The countdown began. 10 minutes until the station's reactor would overload and destroy everything. Chen turned and saw the chimeras closing in. He raised his pulse rifle and fired. The shots hit the closer one, staggering it but not stopping it. These creatures were even more resilient than the one that had killed Martinez. He ran for the airlock. The chimeras pursued, their roars shaking the air. Chen made it through the door and slammed the lock control. The crystal barrier sealed shut, just as the creatures crashed into it. Cracks appeared in the crystal, but it held. For now. Sarah, Yuki, he gasped into his radio. Third terminal activated. 10 minutes. Get to the ship. Captain, where are you? Sarah's voice was tight with worry. On my way. Go. That's an order. He ran back through the station, following his mental map to the docking bay. The countdown echoed through speakers in every corridor. 9 minutes. 8 minutes. He was halfway there when he found Lieutenant Park. The Marine was lying in a corridor, his suit torn, blood pooling beneath him. But his chest was moving, breathing. He was alive. Park. Chen dropped beside him. Can you hear me? Park's eyes opened. Captain, knew you'd come back. His voice was weak. That thing ambushed me. Didn't see it until too late. Chen checked Park's wounds. They were bad. Deep gashes across his side and leg. I'm going to get you out of here. No time, Park coughed, blood on his lips. You set the self-destruct? All 3 terminals. We have 7 minutes. Good, get to the ship. Warn Earth, I'm not leaving you. Park grabbed Chen's arm with surprising strength. You have to. That's not the only chimera. The one from the habitat. It got out. It's between you and the docking bay. I wounded it, but I couldn't stop it. Then we fight it together. Marcus. Park used his first name, something he never did. You're the captain. You have a duty to the crew. To Earth, I'm already dead. I'm just too stubborn to admit it, so go. That's an order from your oldest friend. Chen felt tears on his face. James, go. The countdown reached 6 minutes. Chen stood, his body feeling like lead. He looked down at his friend, a man he'd served with for 10 years. Park managed a weak smile. Tell them I went down fighting. You're damn right I will. Chen ran. He didn't look back because he knew if he did, he wouldn't be able to leave. Behind him, he heard Park's pulse rifle fire. Once, twice, 3 times. Then silence. 5 minutes. Chen reached the area near the docking bay. The corridor ahead was dark. His flashlight revealed claw marks on the walls. Blood. The wounded chimera was close. Sarah, Yuki, are you at the ship? We're here, Captain. Waiting for you. There's a chimera between me and the bay. If I don't make it through, you launch. You get home. You tell them everything when Captain, when promise me. A pause. Then Sarah's voice choked with emotion. I promise. Chen moved forward into the darkness. His light swept across the corridor. Nothing. He took another step. Another. The chimera dropped from the ceiling. It landed on him, driving him to the ground. This close, he could see the intelligence in its multiple eyes. The hatred. It opened a mouth full of teeth and lunged for his throat. Chen jammed the plasma cutter into its chest and activated it. The tool shrieked, cutting through the creature's hide. It screamed and reared back. Chen fired his pulse rifle point blank into its head. Once, twice, 3 times. The chimera collapsed, twitching. Black blood pooled around it. Chen staggered to his feet, grabbed his weapons, and ran. 3 minutes, he burst into the docking bay. Sarah and Yuki were at the airlock of the Pathfinder, waving frantically. He sprinted across the open space. 2 minutes. He was almost there when he heard the crystal breaking. The Habitat D? They ran through the corridors, their boots pounding against the metal floor. Behind them, something roared. The sound was unlike anything from Earth. It echoed through the station, a mixture of rage and hunger that made their blood freeze. "Move, move, move," Lieutenant Park shouted. He was at the rear, rifle pointed back the way they came, but nothing appeared. Not yet. Captain Chen led them through the twisting passages, trying to remember the way back to their ship. Dr. Yuki Tanaka stumbled, and Dr. Sarah Okonkwo grabbed her arm, keeping her upright. They couldn't afford to fall behind. They reached a junction and Chen stopped, breathing hard. "Which way?" "Left," Yuki gasped, checking her portable scanner. "The docking bay is left." They went left and found themselves in another laboratory. This one was different. Computer terminals lined the walls, all still active, all displaying data. Chen made a decision. "We need to understand what we're dealing with," he said. "Yuki, can you access these files quickly?" "Captain, we need to leave," Park insisted. He was watching the doorway, weapon ready. 5 minutes, Chen said. "We need information. Martinez, can you hear us?" His radio crackled. Ensign Aria Martinez responded from the Pathfinder. "I hear you, Captain. What's happening? Your vital signs are all elevated. We found something alive on this station, something dangerous. Be ready to undock the moment we get back." "Understood, sir." Yuki was already at a terminal, her fingers flying over the alien controls. "I'm pulling data logs. Let me translate." "Okay, here. These are research notes. The architects were doing exactly what Sarah thought. Creating hybrid organisms. For what purpose?" Sarah asked. She had moved to another terminal, reading what she could. "Colonization," Yuki said. "They wanted to create perfect organisms that could survive anywhere. They took traits from dozens of species, intelligence from one, regeneration from another, adaptation abilities from a third. They combined everything." Chen felt sick. "They were playing God. They called them chimeras," Yuki continued, reading faster. 12 original subjects. The experiments were successful. Too successful. The chimeras were stronger than predicted, smarter. They began showing aggressive behavior, territorial instincts. And then, what? Park demanded. They started reproducing. The architects hadn't expected that. The genetic combinations were supposed to be sterile, but somehow the chimeras found a way. They created offspring even more adapted than the parents. Sarah was reading another terminal, her face pale. The architects tried to control them, put them in the habitat dome with containment fields. But the chimeras were too intelligent. They learned. They adapted. They found weaknesses in the systems. So the architects fled, Chen said. They couldn't destroy them, Yuki said, pulling up more files. Their ethical protocols wouldn't allow it. The chimeras were intelligent, self-aware. The architects couldn't bring themselves to commit genocide against their own creations. So they sealed the station, set it to drift in deep space, and left. A tomb for their mistakes. How many are still alive? Park asked the question they were all thinking. Yuki searched the files. The habitat was designed to support 12 subjects, but the food supply was limited. Over 200 years, she stopped, her eyes widening. Oh no. What? Chen moved to look at her screen. They've been cannibalizing each other. The data here suggests that when resources become scarce, the chimeras turn on their own kind. The stronger ones consume the weaker, and each time they do, they incorporate useful traits from the victim. They're still evolving even now. How many? Park repeated. The habitat sensors show 3 large organisms, down from 12. 3. 3 creatures that had spent 200 years becoming perfect predators. 3 survivors of an extended death match where only the strongest could live, and they had just woken them up. The power surge, Sarah said suddenly. When we activated the station's systems, we provided enough energy to wake them from their slowed metabolism. We did this, an alarm began blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the laboratory. Yuki checked her scanner and her face went white. One of the containment doors has been breached. Not the habitat dome, one of the smaller chambers. The scratches we saw earlier, they were from the inside. One of the chimeras has been escaping and returning to its cell. It's been exploring the station. It was waiting, Park said. Waiting for someone to come. Waiting for prey. We need to go. Now. Chen moved toward the door. That was when they heard it. A sound from the corridor outside. Not the roar from before. This was quieter. A clicking noise like claws on metal. Something was out there just beyond the doorway. Park aimed his rifle at the entrance. They all held their breath, watching the darkness beyond the laboratory. The clicking came closer. Closer, then it stopped. "Martinez," Chen whispered into his radio. "We have a situation. If we don't make it back, you leave immediately. Tell Earth Command what we found. Warn them. Captain, I'm not leaving without you." "That's an order. Ensign." Before Martinez could respond, something moved past the doorway. Fast. A blur of motion that was there and gone in an instant. But they all saw it. Scales that shifted color to match the shadows. Multiple limbs that bent in wrong directions. Eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. "It's hunting us," Sarah whispered. Park fired 3 shots into the corridor. The pulse rifle illuminated the space with blue-white flashes. They saw nothing. No blood, no body. The chimera had already moved. "Go," Park shouted. "Other door, move!" There was a second exit on the far side of the laboratory. They ran for it, Park backing toward them while keeping his weapon trained on the first doorway. They made it through and Chen slammed the lock control. The door sealed with a heavy thunk. "That won't hold it for long," Yuki said. "These locks aren't designed for containment." They ran again, taking turns at random, trying to lose whatever was following them. Chen pulled up a map on his wrist display. They were getting closer to the docking bay, but they had to go through the crew quarters section to reach it. The lights in this area were flickering. Some had failed entirely, leaving pools of darkness. They moved through the shadows, trying to stay quiet. Behind them, they heard the sound of the laboratory door being torn apart. Metal screamed and bent. The chimera was coming. They reached a large open space that might have been a recreation area. Tables and strange equipment were scattered around. Multiple exits led in different directions. Chen was trying to determine which path to take when Park grabbed his arm. "There," Park whispered, pointing. On the far side of the room, standing in one of the doorways, was Ensign Martinez. She stood perfectly still, her back to them. "Martinez," Chen called. "What are you doing here? I told you to stay on the ship." Martinez didn't turn around, didn't respond, just stood there motionless. "Something's wrong," Sarah said. "Martinez, are you okay?" Very slowly, Martinez began to turn. But something was off about her movement. Her joints bent at angles that weren't quite human, and when her face came into view, they saw her mouth was open, but it was too wide. "Much too wide, that's not her," Yuki breathed. The thing wearing Martinez's shape smiled at them. Then it spoke, and the voice was perfect. Martinez's voice exactly. "Captain, I'm not leaving without you." It was the exact phrase Martinez had said over the radio minutes before. The chimera had heard. It had learned. And now it was mimicking human form, human speech. Luring them close, Park didn't hesitate. He opened fire, pouring rounds into the creature. It shrieked and dropped the disguise, its body rippling and changing into its true form. The bullets hit it but seemed to do little damage. Its hide was too thick, too adaptive. "Run!" Park screamed. They scattered, taking different doorways. Chen grabbed Sarah and pulled her through one exit. He looked back and saw Yuki going another way. Park was backing toward a third door, still firing at the chimera. "Everyone, get to the ship," Chen shouted into his radio. "Split up and converge on the docking bay." He and Sarah ran through empty corridors. His radio crackled with voices. Yuki reporting she was heading for the docking bay. Park saying he was doubling back to flank the creature. Then they heard a new voice, young, frightened. "Captain? Captain, help me. I'm lost. I can't find you, please." It was Martinez. "The real Martinez. Martinez, where are you?" Chen demanded. "I don't know. I came to help. I thought I heard you calling for me. But now I'm lost. Everything looks the same. Captain, there's something following me. I can hear it. Martinez, listen to me. Get back to the ship, right now. I can't find it. Captain, please. It's getting closer." Her voice was rising in panic. They could hear running footsteps through the radio. Heavy breathing, then something else. That clicking sound, claws on metal. "Martinez, hide. Find somewhere to hide and stay quiet. It sees me. Oh God, it sees me. Captain!" Her screams filled the radio. Terrible screams that echoed through the station. Chen and Sarah stopped running, frozen in horror. The screams went on and then suddenly cut off. The radio crackled with static. Then silence. "Martinez," Chen said. His voice was hollow. "Martinez, respond." Nothing. Yuki's voice came through. Captain, I'm at the docking bay. Where are you? Chen looked at Sarah. Her face was wet with tears. We're coming, he said. Park, where are you? No response. Park, report. Still nothing. They ran toward the docking bay, their hearts pounding. The warning should have stopped them. Captain Chen knew that. But they had traveled so far, invested so much time and resources. Turning back without answers felt wrong. Besides, whatever danger had existed here was 200 years old. Surely it was gone by now. They moved through corridors that twisted and curved in ways that seemed to defy normal geometry. The architecture was beautiful but alien. Nothing was quite the angle it should be. Nothing felt completely right. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo kept stopping to take samples and readings. Everything fascinated her. The builders were humanoid, she said, measuring a doorway, but taller. Maybe 7 feet on average. And look at these handrails. The spacing suggests they had longer arms than us. Architects, Dr. Yuki Tanaka said suddenly. She was examining another wall panel, translating more symbols. That's what they called themselves. The architects. They built things across many star systems. This station was one of many. What happened to them? Lieutenant Park asked. He hadn't lowered his weapon since they passed the warning sign. Yuki shook her head. The text here doesn't say. But there are dates. If I'm reading these correctly, this station was abandoned about 200 years ago. Whatever drove them away happened fast. They found a central hub, a massive chamber that rose several stories high. Bridges and walkways connected different levels. At the center stood a cylindrical structure, covered in displays and controls. Yuki approached it carefully, and when she touched the surface, the entire thing lit up. It's a computer core, she breathed. An artificial intelligence, I think. It's trying to communicate. Symbols scrolled across the screens. Yuki's translation program struggled to keep up. Words appeared in broken English, pieced together from the mathematical foundation. Greetings, visitors. Welcome. Architect Station Epsilon 7. Warning. Danger. Do not. Research wing. Do not. The message fragmented and died. The lights flickered, then steadied. The AI is damaged, Yuki said. Running on minimal power. It's trying to warn us about something in the research wing. Of course it is, Park muttered. And we're going to go look anyway, aren't we? Chen studied the chamber, thinking. We need to understand what happened here. The research wing might have answers, but we stay together and we stay alert. They found the research wing on the lower levels of the station. The doors were larger here, reinforced. Many were sealed with heavy locks. Inside the first laboratory, they found equipment whose purpose they could only guess at. Strange machines, crystal matrices, containment fields, and specimens. Oh my God, Sarah whispered. She stood before a row of cylindrical tanks. Inside each tank floated a creature preserved in clear fluid. These are from different worlds, different ecosystems. Look at the variety. One creature had scales and multiple limbs. Another was covered in fur with eyes that reflected the light. A third looked almost like a fish, but with limbs that suggested it could walk on land. Dozens of tanks, dozens of species. They were studying them, Sarah continued, moving from tank to tank, cataloging life from across the galaxy. This is incredible. They're all dead, Park observed. Every single one. Extinct species, maybe, Sarah suggested. Preserved for study. The architects were trying to understand life itself. But in the next laboratory, they found something different. Here, the tanks were larger. The creatures inside were stranger. One had scales on half its body and fur on the other half. Another seemed to be a combination of 3 different species merged together. The combinations looked wrong, unnatural. Genetic experimentation, Yuki said quietly. They weren't just studying life. They were manipulating it. Creating hybrids. Chen felt cold despite his suit's temperature controls. Why would they do that? To understand how different biological systems could work together, Sarah said. She was reading labels on the tanks, translating what she could, or maybe to create something new. Something that could survive in multiple environments. At the back of the laboratory, they found a door that was different from the others. It was heavier, reinforced with layers of metal and what looked like energy shielding. Warning symbols covered every surface. Yuki translated them. Failed synthesis. Containment protocol active. Do not open under any circumstances. Park moved to stand between the door and the rest of the team. Whatever's behind there stays behind there. Agreed? Everyone nodded. But Sarah noticed something that made her blood run cold. The interior edge of the door frame showed scratches. deep gouges in the metal as if something with claws had tried to break through. "Recently. Those scratches are fresh," she said. "The metal is bright underneath. Not corroded like it should be if they were 200 years old." "That's impossible," Park said. "Nothing could survive that long without food or water." "Maybe nothing did," Chen said. "Maybe the scratches are from before the station was abandoned." But none of them believed that. They found a security station, and Yuki managed to access the video archives. The files were corrupted, but she recovered fragments. The screen showed images of architects moving through the station. They were tall and elegant, with long limbs and large eyes. They wore robes marked with symbols. Then the footage jumped to the research wing, architects in protective suits working in the laboratories. One video showed them standing around a large chamber, observing something inside. The quality was poor, but they could see movement. "Something alive, go forward," Chen ordered. "Find out what happened." Yuki scrolled through the files. Days passed in seconds, then weeks. The architects became more frantic in their movements. More security personnel appeared. Something had gone wrong. The final video file showed chaos, alarms flashing, architects running through corridors. The camera shook as if the station itself was moving. Then the footage cut to the research wing. A chamber door was breached. Something emerged into the corridor moving fast. The video ended. "That's it," Yuki said. "That's the last file in the system." They sat in silence, processing what they had seen. Finally, Park spoke. "So they created something." It escaped. They evacuated and left the station to drift. "End of story." "Maybe," Chen said. "But we need to be sure." "Yuki, can you access the station's environmental controls? Find out where the containment chambers are located." Yuki worked at the console for several minutes. A map of the station appeared on the screen. Most areas showed green, but deep in the station's core, a single chamber pulsed red. "That's odd," Yuki said. "That chamber is drawing significantly more power than anywhere else. Life support, heating, even some kind of stasis field." "Something is still alive in there," Sarah said. After all this time, they made their way to the station's core, following the map. The corridors grew colder. The lights became less responsive, taking longer to activate. They passed more sealed doors, more warning signs. The scratches on the walls became more frequent. Finally, they reached it. A massive chamber with walls of reinforced crystal. Through the transparent barrier, they could see what looked like a garden habitat. Trees and plants grew under artificial sunlight. Water flowed in a stream. It was beautiful, like a piece of paradise sealed in the heart of this dead station. "It's an ecosystem," Sarah said. "Self-contained and self-sustaining." "That's why it's still drawing power." The architects built it to last. They moved closer to the viewing window. The habitat was large, maybe the size of a football field. Dense vegetation covered most of it, making it hard to see deep inside. Then Park saw it. Movement in the shadows beneath the trees. Something large, something that shouldn't be there. "Contact," he said quietly, raising his rifle. "Something's moving." Northwest corner. They all pressed closer to the window, straining to see. The vegetation rustled. Whatever was in there was big and trying to stay hidden. The station's AI suddenly activated again, speakers crackling to life throughout the chamber. The voice was mechanical but urgent. This time, the English was perfect, as if the AI had been learning from them. "Warning. They are awake. You should not have come." The lights in the habitat suddenly blazed brighter, and in that moment of illumination they saw it. A creature emerged from the vegetation, drawn by the light or perhaps by their presence. It was massive, at least 10 feet tall. Its body was a nightmare mixture of features. Scales covered parts of it, while other areas showed thick fur. Multiple eyes studied them from a head that seemed to shift and change shape even as they watched. Limbs that ended in claws capable of tearing metal. It moved to the window and placed one clawed hand against the crystal. The way it looked at them showed intelligence. Cold, calculating intelligence. It knew they were prey. "Run," Chen said quietly. "Back to the ship now." They ran. The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly in all directions. The UNSS Pathfinder moved slowly through the void, its engines humming quietly. Inside the ship, Captain Marcus Chen stared at the screen in front of him. The signal was weak but steady. It had been transmitting for over 50 years, calling out to anyone who might hear it. "Are we sure about this?" Lieutenant James Park asked. He stood behind the captain's chair, his arms crossed. Park was a former Marine, built like a wall, and he trusted his instincts. Right now, those instincts were screaming at him to turn around. The signal is clearly artificial, Dr. Yuki Tanaka said. She was hunched over her console, fingers dancing across the controls. Whatever is out there, someone built it. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo leaned forward in her seat. She was the ship's xenobiologist, and this was the moment she had dreamed about her entire career. This could be first contact, she whispered. Real proof that we're not alone. Captain Chen rubbed his jaw. He was 45 years old with gray streaking through his dark hair. 3 years ago, he had lost 2 crew members on a mission that went wrong. He still saw their faces when he closed his eyes. Mikhail, what do you think? Dr. Mikhail Petrov, the medical officer, shrugged. I think we came all the way out here. We should at least look. The youngest member of the crew, Ensign Aria Martinez, spoke up from the communications station. Captain, we're close enough now. I'm getting a visual. The main screen flickered, and then they all saw it. The space station hung in the darkness like a frozen dream. It was massive, easily 5 times larger than any station humanity had ever built. The structure was unlike anything they had seen before. Smooth organic curves mixed with sharp crystalline towers. Parts of it seemed to flow like frozen water. Other sections looked grown rather than constructed. My God, Sarah breathed. It's beautiful. It's dead, Park said. No lights. No power signature. Whatever built this is long gone. Yuki shook her head, studying her readings. That's not quite right. There is power. Minimal, but it's there. Life support is running at maybe 5% capacity, and the distress beacon is still active. Life signs? Chen asked. None. The station is empty. Chen stood up and walked closer to the screen. The station slowly rotated in space, revealing more of its impossible architecture. How old is it? Based on the beacon's degradation and the dust accumulation on the hull, I'd estimate at least 200 years, Yuki said. Maybe older. 200 years, Martinez repeated. That's before we even left Earth's solar system. Park moved to stand beside the captain. This could be dangerous. We don't know who built it or why it was abandoned. That distress signal could be a warning, or a cry for help, Sarah countered. We have to investigate. This is exactly why we're out here. Chen knew she was right. The Pathfinder was an explorer vessel, sent to push the boundaries of human knowledge. They were beyond Neptune's orbit, further from Earth than any human had traveled before. If they turned back now without investigating, they would regret it forever. All right, he said. We'll send an away team. Park, you're with me. Sarah, Yuki, you too. Mikhail, you'll monitor our vitals from here. Martinez, keep the ship ready. If anything goes wrong, you get out of here immediately. Understood? Yes, sir, Martinez said, though she looked unhappy about staying behind. They prepared for the crossing in silence. Each person pulled on their EVA suit and checked their equipment. Park carried extra weapons, including a pulse rifle and 2 sidearms. Chen hoped they wouldn't need them. The airlock cycled, and the 4 of them drifted across the empty space between their ship and the station. Up close, the alien structure was even more impressive. The hull had a strange texture, almost like skin. Yuki ran her gloved hand across it. It's warm, she said, surprised. Just slightly above 0. The material is conducting heat from somewhere inside. They found an airlock easily enough. The door was marked with symbols they didn't recognize, but the shape and function were obvious. Yuki examined the control panel beside it. I think I can open this, she said. The technology is different, but the logic is similar. They wanted visitors to be able to enter. Or they wanted to be able to get out quickly, Park muttered. Yuki worked for several minutes, connecting her portable computer to the alien systems. Finally, something clicked. The airlock door split open with a hiss, revealing darkness beyond. We have atmosphere, Yuki reported, checking her scanner. Breathable, actually. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace gases. Almost identical to Earth. Keep your helmets on anyway, Chen ordered. They stepped inside. The moment they crossed the threshold, lights began to flicker on. Soft, blue-white illumination spread down the corridor ahead of them, responding to their presence. The walls were smooth and curved, leading deeper into the station. Motion sensors, Yuki said. Still working after all this time. The engineering here is incredible. They moved forward carefully, Park taking point with his rifle ready. The corridor opened into a larger chamber. More lights activated, revealing a space that might have been a reception area or lobby. Strange furniture sat in organized groupings. Panels on the walls might have been information displays or art. Everything was dust-free and perfectly preserved. It's like they just left, Sarah said. Like they stepped out for a moment and never came back. They explored further, finding more chambers. Living quarters with beds sized for beings larger than humans. A cafeteria with tables arranged around a central food preparation area. Recreation rooms with equipment whose purpose they could only guess at. Whoever lived here, they were advanced, Chen said. Very advanced. Then Yuki stopped. She was examining a wall panel, running translations through her computer. Captain, you need to see this. The panel was covered in symbols. Mathematical formulas, geometric shapes, and what looked like written language. Yuki's program worked through the mathematics, using it as a key to unlock the meaning of the words. It's a universal language attempt, she explained, using math as the foundation for communication. Brilliant, really. Any technological species would understand mathematics. What does it say? Park asked. The translation appeared on Yuki's screen. Sarah read it aloud, her voice growing quieter with each word. Quarantine zone, do not proceed. Experiment unstable. The four of them stood in silence, staring at the warning. The lights flickered around them, casting strange shadows on the alien walls. Somewhere deeper in the station, something made a sound. A distant clang of metal on metal, or perhaps just the structure settling. We should go back, Park said. Report this to Earth Command. Let them decide what to do. But Chen was already shaking his head. We're here. We've come this far. Whatever happened on this station, Earth needs to know. Humanity needs to know. Sarah nodded in agreement. We'll be careful. We'll document everything and stay together. Park didn't look happy, but he didn't argue. He just tightened his grip on his rifle and moved to take point again. They proceeded past the warning deeper into the station. Behind them, the lights they had activated began to dim, one by one, as if the station itself was watching them go. And somewhere in the darkness ahead, something ancient stirred, awakening after a very long sleep.